You see the sun's out, the fun's out, the smokers are rolling in the background, and we are doing beef ribs. When I say beef ribs, it is my absolute favorite protein to cook. What is up, gang? Welcome to another TFTP, that is Tales from the Pit. I'm Sonny's BBQ head pitmaster, Shannon Snell, and we are doing beef ribs. I'm a beef guy. If you guys have seen any of our videos, you know I talk religiously about brisket. And today I'm gonna talk about my favorite cut out of a cow, which would be beef ribs. Okay, so where do you find beef ribs? Well, they're a little bit tough to find. They're one of those items that's a little bit of a delicacy, right? You don't find them everywhere. You have to go to a specialty store, some stores that sell in a bulk, as I did with this one, but it's a big old plate of beef ribs, as you can see right here, right? Got big bones in the back, and if you ever seen or gone to Central Texas, or you've done anything, or you traveled a little bit and gotten a beef rib, you realize it's not like a pork rib, all right? We've done videos in the past, and you can go back and check some of our videos where we've done pork ribs, we've done baby backs, and they're a little bit smaller. These are huge, and they take a long time to cook, all right? And you gotta do a few things to them before you actually stick them on your smoker and start to cook them. So we're gonna start that right now. All right, so what we're looking at right here is, you see a lot of this fat, a lot of this silver skin, a lot of this fat on the side that needs to be trimmed off. A lot of your work with beef ribs is gonna come in the initial stages, because at the end, you're not really doing too much other than just wrapping it and adding a few things to your wrap. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna trim it up, we're gonna do a couple of things, we're gonna add some seasonings, and then we're gonna get it on our smoker. So first thing is, I like to start on the back. Now, if you've seen what we've done with pork ribs, we removed this membrane off the back. We're not gonna do that right now, okay? This membrane holds all this good meat onto the front side of this rib. All right, you don't want to remove that membrane off the back. That's super important, all right? But there is something that you need to do to it to make sure that you're getting some seasoning, you're getting some adherence on the back of this rib. So I got my trusty knife right here, all right? Big, nice, sharp knife. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna score the back of it. Say score, I'm just gonna make some nice deep cuts because I want this rib to be nice and tender, all right? But I want this meat to kind of stay intact. When I have these beef ribs, when I have these bones, these really thick bones here, it's important that they show well, right? If this membrane comes off the back, they're not gonna show very well. The meat's gonna fall off the bone. It's gonna be tender, it's gonna be good, but as much as you got these, you want these to show well just as much as you want them to taste good. So we're just gonna score it, and we're gonna take it here, and we're gonna score this side as well. Now, what this is gonna do is help the seasonings that we put on here. It's gonna help them penetrate in the back of it. This membrane is very, very thick, very tough, so a lot of it doesn't get behind it. So we wanna make sure that we just leave a couple of openings for some of that salt, some of that pepper to get inside there. Just like that. There's nothing more, nothing less to it. Just some scoring all the way across. It's a big piece of meat. All right, big rib, big slab of rib. So you make sure that you have to be able to score this all the way across so that this meat can kind of come off the bone a little bit, but it can stay intact. So next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna add a binder. You've seen we've added binders in the past. It helps the rub stick. There's not a lot to it, right? But we got a little something different today. One thing we've never done before is we're doing some hot sauce. Hot sauce is gonna add some flavor. Now, we've done mustard on ribs, on pork ribs, and that mustard doesn't add any flavor, but this hot sauce is gonna add a little bit of a kick. Now, you can add some kick to your rubs, all right, but we're doing a very simple rub. This is gonna add the kick that we need without being too overbearing with it. So we'll put half a tablespoon on the back. Just kind of rub that in. All right, now this is when you actually apply some of the rub to the back of your, slab of ribs here. First off, I have a little bit of seasoning salt, all right? If you go to Central Texas, one of their biggest secrets is seasoning salt, is a base layer for all their rubs, all right? Seasoning salt goes a long way, and it really brings out a really depth of flavor that some of the other seasonings just really don't. So I'm just gonna sprinkle some on the back here. Now just remember, all right, when somebody bites into a rib, all right, their tongue is gonna touch the underside of the rib, so be careful not to over salt this thing, all right, but on the other side, make sure that it has enough salt because all the flavor that this beef has is really just the collagen and the intramuscular fat that runs through it. All right, as in stages, all right, rule number one of the barbecue Bible, rub's not a rub, all right, you're not rubbing it in, all right, I'm just gonna pat this in. Just like so. Okay, next up is gonna be kosher salt, another layer of salt, okay? Kosher salt has a nice meltability behind it. I don't like to use iodized salt because it's really harsh. kosher salt melts over the meat, feels good, tastes good. And you can put a little bit extra on here, so you don't have to worry about really over salting this on the back with this kosher salt. Just like so. We'll press that in. And the final step in barbecue and these beef ribs is a thick 18 mesh black pepper. And you want it to be heavy mesh, right? You want it to be thicker because you need this bark to build. You want these granules to kind of break down over that meat and to get a really nice dark bark as you would in beef ribs. And you can cover this pretty heavy. Pepper doesn't have any saltiness. It has some of that bold, some of that spiciness of that pepper, as you will get off of here. But it's really, really important that you cover this entire backside because you want that bark to really form. All right, what we do to the back, we gotta do to the front, flip it over. Other half a tablespoon of hot sauce. I'm gonna do a little bit more because I like hot sauce, guys. If you don't like hot sauce, you can do a little bit less, but you need this binder. You need something to make it stick. Like so. Now, here's a pro tip, okay? If there's too much fat on the front side, make sure you trim some of it off, okay? You wanna be able to have this rub adhere and stick to this meat. These beef ribs are super fatty, okay? So if you don't trim some of it off, you're gonna get a lot of fat. You're gonna get a big bite that's gonna have a lot of fat in it. A lot of this is gonna render off, but not all of it will. I like the fat. I love a big meaty kind of fatty bite. It's kind of like, you can equate this to like the pork belly of the beef world. All right, so I like a really nice meaty fatty bite. So I'm not gonna trim off a little bit too much, but you guys make sure that your rub is gonna stick on to whatever you're trimming off. All right, seasoned salt, same way. Pat that in. We're gonna go a little bit more kosher salt. And this is a really simple recipe. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to do some stuff that's just weird. Remember, beef ribs are really expensive. All right, if you go out there, you have $5, $6 a pound. So if you get this, all right, make sure you're doing something simple, and then you start to expound on that. You can start to do something different down the road. Let's get the basics down, and then you can start to move forward past that. All right, so make sure you salt this pretty well. Remember, you're building bark on the front side. If you don't build bark, then there's no reason to get these, okay? That barky bite, and you'll see at the end. I know I take pride in my beef ribs. I take pride in my brisket. So I want to build that bark. That's super important to me. Let's finish there, pat that in. Also, remember, rule number 2 of my barbecue Bible, no peaks and no valleys. This is nicely smoothed out, okay? You don't see a bunch of divots in here. You don't see a lot of stuff in here that is gonna create pockets of water. It's gonna wash my rub off. That's super important when you get the brisket, when you get the beef. You wanna build flavor, you wanna build bark, and you can't do that without if you have a bunch of divots in there. See, look, all right, we had 2 barbecue Bibles in there, and who knows, I might have a video down the road on the barbecue Bibles, and that we'll talk about. All right, thick mesh black pepper. I'm gonna cover that up right there. I'm gonna pat it in. Also, pro tip, okay? Make sure you cover the sides, all right? You can just dabble it in here, flip it, and cover this side as well. That's it, all right? These are gonna go in the smoker. Right? And as excited as I am to get these onto the smoker because I love beef ribs and I wanna eat, I'm hungry, all right? Make sure you guys subscribe, okay? You get to see these beef ribs right here, right now, but we have plenty of other videos that you guys may wanna check out. So we're gonna get on over to the smoker. Let's head on over there right now. All right, we're here at our grill, holding at between 275 and 300 degrees. Ideal smoking temperature for beef ribs. You can go low and slow, but it's gonna take them a little bit longer. Like I said, I'm hungry, I wanna get these things done. It has enough fat in them that it's gonna break down, that it's gonna protect itself. So you can cook them at a little bit of a higher temperature. So we're gonna stick these on. All right, so these beef ribs are on. Now be very careful, okay? Is that this side will cook fast, all right? A lot of times I wanna stick the thicker side towards the end of the hotter side, but this heat's gonna bounce off this box and it's gonna roll back across. This is a reverse flow smoker here. So it's ideally okay, but just be very careful. This may need to be spritzed a little bit earlier, but we're gonna let this take a nice little smoke nap. We'll come back in a couple hours. You're gonna see how these ribs are kind of broken down a little bit, and you're gonna see kind of the cool effect that it has. we are. We're back. It's been a couple of hours. All right, about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. Want to check on my beef ribs because they've been through this cooking process. Things are starting to happen. I'm really looking for the rub to set. I'm not looking for a temperature. I know a lot of times people say, hey, I'm looking for my ribs to get to 165 or 170 before we wrap because we are wrapping today. But you don't really want to look for temperature. You know, a great man used to tell me, it told me a long time ago, brisket is done when it's done. I'm going to tell you the same thing about beef ribs. The damn thing is done when it's done, okay? It may take you 5 hours. It may take you 10 hours. It's done when it's done. And we'll show you the doneness of what that looks like. But I'm going in here. I'm going to spritz it. I got a little bit of beef tallow here. I got it in the spray form. If you can't find a spray can, which you can find pretty on Amazon or at a lot of grocery stores, you can go into those grocery stores and they have the beef tallow in like bulk cans. All right, you can melt that down and just kind of drizzle it over top. But I'm going to keep these ribs nice and moist, and I want to make sure that they don't dry out on me. Oh, yeah. Look at that. And look at those ribs. You see the ribs have started to kind of shrink up. That meat has started to shrink off that bone. That means that fat is really starting to break down. That rub is starting to really get hardened up. But I just want to make sure I'm hitting around the edges with this beef tallow. Want to make sure I keep this moist, and there's nothing better than the spray to add more beef flavor to your beef ribs, or to any beef at that matter. So I'm just gonna add that a little bit. Now, there is a little bit of pooling right here. All right, there's a little bit of a gap. All you have to do is kind of lift up on that a little bit and empty that out. All right, you want that bark to still build right there, but you want to keep these ribs nice and moist. And this beef tallow is gonna do the trick. Now, we're gonna wrap it in beef tallow, but this is also a cool little trick to make sure that they don't dry out on you. So we're gonna give this a little bit more time. I still need these fibers to break down a little bit before we wrap them up. So we'll see you in probably about another hour. Okay, time to rappy. All right, so I got some butcher paper down here. Now this is pink butcher paper. You're asking, why do you use pink butcher paper? Well, pink butcher paper is kind of free of the bleaching, kind of free of the waxing that you might get on white butcher paper that you might see a butcher shop use. It's great for barbecue. It's gonna be free of those additives, and it's gonna give you kind of the protection that you really need on top of this, on top of these beef ribs. So one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add a little bit more beef tallow. Now, once again, you can go to your local grocery store, find some where you can melt it down and pour it right on over top. This bark is set, so I'm not worried about it washing it off. But you gotta add something, some sort of a braising liquid inside this wrap, whether it be foil or whether it be butcher paper like this. Now, the reason I use butcher paper is because it protects the bark a little bit more. I worked so hard for this. I wanna protect it. You can use foil, the good old Texas crutch, but just remember, once inside the foil, there's a braising process that happens, but also steam happens. And that steam can kind of take off the top layer of that bark. So you can do one or the other. The foil may get it done a little bit quicker, but the butcher paper will definitely protect that bark for you. And just spray this entire, spray right around it, okay? Because once you wrap this thing up, that's the last time you're gonna see it until you're ready, until it's ready to come off the smoker, until you go and check the probe and all that good stuff. I'm gonna take it here and just wrap it up like a Christmas present, like a beef Christmas present. Wrap that under, tuck that under. Now, perfect, all right? Got yourself a little beef present right here. Beef is done, beef is wrapped up. It's time to insert our wireless thermometer, all right? Now, if you don't know what a wireless thermometer is or how to use one, go back and check one of our videos down below, and it'll tell you about it. It'll tell you the pros of it, what it can help you do, and how it can help you cook, especially with a slab like these beef ribs right here. So I'm gonna insert this wireless thermometer right into the middle, and you can feel it, okay? At this point in time, you can feel around just to try to feel the middle rib. All right, and just remember how you wrap these ribs. That's important, all right? Because you want your ribs to run this way. I know that I need to insert my thermometer right in the middle, right in the center mass here. And we're right in the middle, okay? You wanna be in the very middle of the middle rib. That's important because that's gonna give you the best temperature. If you insert it on the outside, that's gonna be done a little bit quicker. If you do something like, the second or third rib in, it may not give you the accurate temperature of the entire slab. So we're gonna go back in with these, all right? Now, Ideal temperature we want to start checking for tenderness is going to be around 195 to 200 degrees. That's super important. All right. That's why this wireless thermometer is really good, is that it can alert you when 195 hits. It can alert your phone. Maybe you have like a monitor. It alerts my phone that, hey, when 195 hits, it's like, hey, Shannon, you need to get your butt up and go check for tenderness. So we're going to take this on over along with this, and we're going to go put this back on our smoker and wait for 195 to get here. Start checking for some tenderness. All right, so time for the ribs to go back on. We want them to get tender enough. All right, we're gonna be checking them at 195, 200 degrees. So we're sticking them on the smoker, and listen out for your alarm. It's super important that you have a temperature alarm. You know when to come back and check them. So get yourself one if you don't have one. It's super important, and it's gonna help you out during your cook. Put those on like so. Temperature alarm here. You just close that up. All right. We'll be back once this alarm starts to go off, and we need to check for tenderness. All right, so I was in there playing video games, and I hear the alarm go off. I don't want to burn my ribs. All right, I was winning, so but I want to win at these ribs too. I want to have some award-winning beef ribs, if you will. So. I know it's time to take them off. I know it's time to try to check for some tenderness. So let's take them off, take them back on over to the table, and see how we did. Oh, let's shut this alarm off first. There we go. Nice, looking good, feeling tender. Take our alarm out here. All right, let's turn it off. Let's get them back on over to the cutting board. Okay. I think our beef ribs are done. It's time to kind of crack into them and check out what it feels like, actually. Now, before you actually bust this wrap open, all right, you want to go ahead and probe them. All right, you know that I know they're holding at 200 degrees, but sometimes they need a little bit more time. When I pulled that probe out, it felt pretty good, but the best way to check is to actually check the tenderness and poke throughout the actual entire slab of ribs here. You want the consistency as you probe into it to feel like room temperature peanut butter or room temperature butter. It should be able to slide in very, very easily and slide out. All those fibers should be able to have broken down, and that whenever you cut into them and bite into it, you shouldn't feel very tough. It shouldn't feel like a rubber band. It should feel very smooth, like a nice, smooth bite. So, see that? There's no give there. It's probing really good. Like it's almost like it's like butter. Right? You want it to probe like butter. You probably hear that saying a lot, that, hey, I want this thing to probe like butter. That's kind of what you want to feel like, room temperature butter, is that you don't want it to have any give. And make sure you hit different areas of this slab just to make sure everything is probing in the same way. I think that feels good. So we can bust them out of this wrap, because once you take off this butcher paper, you don't want to re-wrap it. You don't want to wrap it again. It's not going to be it kind of loses a little bit of its luster. Not to mention you'll have to tallow it again, and you'll drop the temperature and it tightens up. Not a good place to be in. Woo! Now, we're talking money reveal. Check this out. Get out of here. Look at that. All right. Even one of the bones came out. That's how you know it was so tender. You'll notice some of the bones, and that's okay. All right. When one of the bones comes out, but most of these ribs have stayed intact. I know it's tender. That's the most important part. Now, if you're cooking for a family, if you're cooking for a large group of people, and you want to be able to slice some of this up like you would do like a brisket, you can just pull the bones out, because they're going to come out pretty easily. But I want to slice into one. I'm going to want to bite into one, because there's nothing. If you ever watched the Flintstones, you saw Fred Flintstone with the big old dinosaur rib on the side, it's kind of what this reminds me of a little bit. All right, it's kind of watching the Flintstones back in the day. Hopefully I'm not aging myself, so hopefully everybody knows what the Flintstones is, but that's kind of what I imagine. Look at that. The disintegration on the back. You see some of that backbone area starting to look good. Some of that film starting to come off. Just going to cut right into this. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at the juiciness in that thing. Look at that rib. Look at the nice smoke ring and how everything's broken down really nice. This is exactly what you want in a beef rib. It's not overcooked, right? Because if you shake it, it's not coming off the bone. A lot of times you see people when they do a beef rib, or you see them cooking, it slides off the bone and it turns into mush. It's not what you want. You want this thing to kind of break down a little bit. You want it to be like nice and melty without it sliding off the bone. I know sometimes you're like, hey, it should fall off the bone. That's not always true. All right, it needs to hold the shape a little bit. So turn these up. And then you can take this one off, and just to know it's tender, you can take that right off the back and there's another bone. And you can just slice this up just like you would brisket. Look at that. When the knife, this knife is sharp, but and you can even see some of the end pieces, they're starting to break off a little bit. It's really tender. Look at that. Look at that beef rib right there, all right? I'm gonna get a bite of everything here because I want some of the bark, I want some of that smoke ring, I want some of that fat right there. I have to try it, okay? I've been waiting all daggone day. I had to walk away from my video game to pull these ribs off the smoker, so it's only fair that I take my first bite here. Give me a minute. Give me 2 minutes, actually. Okay, so I gotta describe to you what's going on here in my mouth here. So first of all, when I bit into this rib, it melted away just super nice. I felt like juice shoot into my mouth because of the fact the rib was still juicy, but then I tasted the smoke and I tasted that first layer of that seasoned salt we put down, and then that nice heavy layer of pepper that we had on the back end. It was almost like you wanted it to build flavor, and that's exactly what we did here. And just it being so tender, and the beef actually being such a thick product, it did all the talking for itself. So I'm impressed with this, and hopefully you guys were impressed with this too. And thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully I'll see you again next time. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. That's super important. We were able to do these beef ribs today because of people like you, because you asked for it. You asked for it down in the comment section. I did it for you, so hopefully we can do that again for you next time. I'm Sonny's BBQ Pitmaster Shannon Snell. I'll see you guys later.